Hey, good morning, good afternoon, guys. Thinker Ula, thanks for joining me this morning. Today's Monday. We're back to Monday again, April 10th. Hope you guys have had a happy Easter. I know Easter was a holiday for a lot of us around the world, so hopefully that went well. I didn't really do much for Easter. Hopefully my mic's on. Is my mic on? Yeah, it looks like it's on. I am fine, thanks. How are you? Oh, great. I'm glad you guys are talking and stuff together. All right, let's get into some new stuff today. Got some things to talk about. Talk about color. Oh, wow. So yesterday I spent a lot of time researching color. I'm going to show you my palette full screen. This is going to be kind of fun. So I'm getting deep into trying to make a video. Well, at first I was thinking I'm going to make one video of, my color mixing process, but I wanted to make it, kind of beginner friendly, from the beginning kind of thing. And I did a bunch of research, and after about 2 hours of research, literally just looking at different videos, different techniques, color theory, all the terminology, my head was spinning because of the complexity. I mean, it can get way out there, just out of proportion. But the one thing that I realized was I needed to begin with a set of terminology. So a common language to surround around color and how to talk about it. Because one of the most important things with art, with painting, with creating anything, with matching color, is the ability to see more than anything. And I hear that a lot, it's more about learning to see than it is learning to paint. And I really recently just got a better understanding of what exactly that means. Honestly, learning to paint is all about learning to understand. Understand in the sense where you could describe it in your own language. And to master a subject is when you can describe it to a 10-year-old or a 5-year-old. In such simple language that you know it so well that you can actually teach it to someone that is that young. But it's all surrounds around, this kind of common language. And so I felt like I needed to create a first video that goes over common color theory, because that's what color theory is. Color theory is just applying terminology, objective terminology to the complexity that is color, so that people could actually understand what I'm talking about when I say chroma, and how that's the exact same thing as saturation and intensity, the purity of color. There's all these terms that kind of surround it. What exactly primaries are, what secondaries are, tertiaries, shades versus tints versus tones, all this kind of cool stuff. And while I was doing that research, there's another thing I decided, that I'm going to start setting up my palette a bit differently. And the palette is going to be focused on a color wheel type setup. And right now what I'm doing is I'm putting out my primaries. Sorry for continually leaning in front of the palette, because my paint cart's to the right over there, so I need to do that to get the paint. Now, am I going to set up my palette like this? After doing, all of the that research on color theory, I realized that the RBY palette, I was calling it RBG. See, there's a lot of terms that, I'm not tremendously familiar with. So RBG, red, blue, and green, these are the colors that printers use. And light is used that way. So RBG, we use an RBY palette as far as primaries are concerned, not a palette, but primaries. So red, yellow, blue, not red, yellow, green. And that blue is a bit too thick, so I'm going to replace it. I've also kind of understood the Munsell color wheel a bit more. It's still a really great way to understand your colors because you can plot them exactly on the color wheel, or on this Munsell color wheel, so you can get more information about your colors, especially, how they are right out of the tube. But it's through the mixtures that we understand them a bit more. Now, the problem that I understand now with it's not really a problem, but the difference with this Munsell color wheel, and let me switch to this one so I can show you the Munsell color wheel. Not all of it, you don't need to see all of it really, but the difference with this Munsell color wheel is that it doesn't have 3 primaries. It uses 5 primaries. It uses red. Let me back up on the camera. Oh, this way. There we go. Now I can see it better. So it uses red as a primary. It uses yellow, I believe. I'm trying to remember all these. So 5Y. It's all the ones that have just... It uses green as a primary. So red, yellow, green, blue, and purple as a primary. You can tell that because it goes 5R with just one letter, 5P with just one letter, or 10P, 10B, 10G, 10Y, and 10R. So that's 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it uses 5 primaries. I also looked at the CMYK color wheel, or the CMYK primary palette, using CMYK instead of RBY. And it becomes really complex very quickly. And I'm thinking, oh man, that's, I don't want to do that. That's way too complex. So I'm going to be sticking with the RBY palette, or at least the RBY primaries, because that's where everything starts. It's the beginning of all color. All color are mixed from these primaries, which is kind of interesting. I mean, that's the definition of a primary. Yet, within the Munsell color wheel, it has purple and green as primaries. It's interesting. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do, and this is really interesting because I was questioning this, something that kind of gets thrown around is, never use black. And I've been kind of telling you guys to never use black because it really kills a color. I was very wrong on that. Actually, and I'm thinking also because I want to place these down differently today. I want to place all my colors down differently. I was getting ready to put that white right in the same place that I always put it, but we're not going to do that. We're going to put it where it goes on the color wheel. So I'll probably be adding black back to my palette, not with this painting, Maybe with this painting. I'm not sure. I'm so far into this painting that I don't want to introduce a brand new color. It could really throw off what I'm working on right now and make things a bit different. So I want to make sure that I don't do that with this painting. But I wanted to introduce black again because after doing some research on it, I figured out that it doesn't kill a color, whatever that means, but it provides the ability to do shades with color. I really didn't know the difference between a shade, a tint, and a tone. A shade is when you add, let's say you take the red here and you add black to it, you've made a shade. If you take the red and you add white to it, you've made a tint. And if you take the red and you add a gray to it, you've made a tone. What's really interesting about that is it's very close to, or at least the practice that I want to do with this. I actually started recording video yesterday and decided to do it over because I didn't think it was as good. It wasn't to the point. It was kind of rambly. I wanted to get this into something that's really understandable, easy to understand, and is clear and concise. Every single minute filled with as much value as possible. So what we'll be doing on that next video is trying to exhaust our palette of colors, and not all of them, but as many as we can in a lot of different ways by making color wheels of our own. So I'm a visual learner. I think many people are visual learners. So instead of, just having a video where I sit here and I talk to you, and then I list a bunch of colors on the side, or a bunch of terms, and then give you definition of those terms, we're going to have some visual thing that we can do, which is going to be making a smaller color wheels with 12 different colors on each one, and making mixtures between each. So each one of those color wheels are going to do shades, tints, and tones, which is very similar to what you'll find in Richard Schmid's book. So this is Alla Prima 2 by Richard Schmid. Probably this is a very essential book. One day I'll probably review this. I should probably do that. Just go through it. I could pick out just a tremendous amount of information in this book and just talk about it for months and months on my, videos or whatever, just, referencing this book. But one of the interesting things that he has you do is he has you make these, what do he calls them? Color charts. These are a little bit different. These are all based on tints. They're all mixed with white. But for each chart, like this chart over here, he takes 2 of his colors on his palette, mixes them together, and then does all these variations between them. Or no, I take that back. So he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He has 11 colors on his palette, which is a really complex palette. And he takes one color in particular. So like this is cadmium red, and he'll mix cadmium red with his CL, which is, I'm not sure what that means, but he'll mix it with another color and then take it down to white. He'll mix it with another color on his palette, then take it down to white. And these charts, they take months and months to create, hours and hours and hours. But the purpose of it is to really get a deep understanding of the colors that you have and the mixtures that you can make between them. The very first color chart I did yesterday, I'm going to redo that video and make it a bit better. I learned so much about the colors that I have because I introduced black, and I'm like, wow, I may not even need burnt umber, which is really interesting. So we can get into that at some point. Yeah, chromatic black. I looked at, I should have wrote it down, but I looked at the definition of chromatic black, and it's basically Gamblin takes two different colors, mix them together to make a black. And I forget their explanation because of that. And it's kind of like what I do on the palette. Like if you ultramarine blue and a burnt umber makes a black, you know, there's some quinacridone magenta and another color you can mix together to make something as close to a black. Looks like my stream is having some issues. Give me 1 second. I'm going to cut off some things. I'll be right back. Oh, I found it real quick. So, chromatic black. So it gives a more subtle mix to your colors than opaque black, like a Mars black or an ivory black. It basically has a less effect on other colors. Tinting strength, that's what it changes. And I did notice that black has a very strong tinting strength, which, you know, could be a positive and a negative. Okay, let's get back to my color wheel. White. Where does white go? Oh, good morning, Ashton. Where does white go on the color wheel? I'll show you. It goes right over here next to blue. So right next to blue. Now the color wheel, and this black will have a color to it as well. I'm not sure if the ivory black is a warm color or a cool color, but I can still use my Munsell color wheel that I made up. And check out the video for that if you wanted to make up one yourself. And I could look at it and understand where to place all of these other colors on my palette, because they're still based on, you know, a basic color wheel where it moves around a circle, you know, yellow to orange to red to purple to blue to green. Well, I forgot. Blue, teal, green. I gotta mention that. That's where teal will be over here somewhere. You know, not exactly. You know, it'd probably be right there, I would guess. And green would be down here. So I always have sap green on my palette. I may add some more colors. It depends on after I make up those color wheels. I may reduce the amount of paints that I use overall. And then burnt umber is actually an orange. What's interesting is it's an orange that's closer to yellow. If I look at, no, that's raw umber. Burnt umber is right on the same line with transparent earth orange and cadmium orange. So right in the center here between red and yellow, that's burnt umber. Now we're just talking about hue, right? We're talking about the color itself. Oh, transparent earth orange, which I always like this color. I may find out that I don't even need this color. Figure out how to mix it really easily, and I won't even need it. But those two colors, the hue, are exactly the same. So what's interesting about this is when I set up my palette this way, you can start to see really big gaps, right? Between areas. Oh, one thing I missed was my alizarin permanent. So alizarin permanent is right in between. And actually, it's not right in between. It's closer to red than it is a purple. So I'm going to put it right here. There's my alizarin permanent. And then a purple would go over here. The teal would be here. The cadmium green would be over here. It's a very light green. Okay. So this is how I'm going to set up my palette now. So why am I going to do it this way? Well, unlike the Munsell color wheel, which is much more complex, and it's hard to look at complementaries, analogous colors, primary, secondaries, tertiaries, these kind of ways to be able to adjust the painting that you're working on. When you set up your palette this way, it's really easy to understand where those primaries, secondaries, and things are. For example, if I wanted to neutralize my oranges over here, you know, I would need some kind of blue, you know, so blue over here. Yellow, a neutralizer for yellow is purple, you know, right in between these two. A neutralizer for green is red because it's actually a mixture between yellow and blue. So that really is kind of in the center. I got a lot more space down here than anything. Okay. Now, let's get to the painting. Sorry that took so long, but it's a couple things that I wanted to really explain because I'm going to be getting deeper into color and developing, you know, a set of videos on YouTube that can help you guys out because I get a lot of questions on it. Okay. Let's zoom in. Let's get some work done on this palm frond. That's what we're going to work on today. And as you can see, I oiled out this top part of it, but not the bottom part. So let's get all that luscious color back. I'm confused. Why does white go next to blue? Is it because it has a blue bias? Yeah, white is actually blue. So is gray. Grays are closer to blue. Now you can have a warmer gray. You can have a warmer black. You can have a warmer white. But these are all neutral colors that actually exist in the center of the color wheel. But if you, like for instance, Mark Carter with Draw Mix Paint, he puts his white right next to blue, and I agree with that. And you know, if I made up a true color wheel here, white, black, and gray would all be in the center. You know, gray would get you there. I mean, gray, these would be different saturations, you know, moving from red all the way to the center of, you know, a blank white, so it's tint, or a black, or grays, you know, that kind of thing. But I can't do that here, you know, maybe in the background, but that would really kind of mess up what, you know, my mixtures. But anyway, so every time you add white to a color, how the paint itself interacts with color is it cools off all other colors. It's a cooling color. It does have a cool bias to it. And when we talk about color temperature, okay, white is of a higher temperature. Now, and this is specific. When we talk about color temperature, we're talking about very specific numbers. On the Kelvin scale, this is what the temperature means. Actually, the reason why they call it temperature is because when Kelvin realized these colors, he was heating up materials to a certain temperature. And he found that at certain temperatures, certain colors come out. Now, the regular tungsten bulbs, right, are around 3200 Kelvin, which is a very warm light. So we're getting into like yellows and oranges at 3200 Kelvin. Even more red than that would be like 2400 Kelvin. Once you get into the blues and things, you're at 5000, 5600, 6500 Kelvin. And this is where sunlight is. Sunlight like at noon, you know, not like golden hour where the sun's really low. But if I put a temperature number to blue and white, it would be way up there, 5600. And when you're thinking about this, okay, we got these warm colors here. There's everything that you would mix with these two. The blue and the white would cool it off in some way. So we place it next to blue. It has a blue bias to it, just like you said. I watched some more videos in the past couple days that I have in months. Where would black go on this new color wheel? See, that's interesting because ivory black and gray, or any black and gray, would go towards, you know, the blue section. When you look at a gray, you have to think blue. Now, why blue? Because it's a cooling of a color in general. Now, if I took a blue and I made a gray out of it, it could be a warming of that color. But you started with blue. If I take a green and I warm it up a bit, it could be warmer than a green, but it's still in the cooler family. So for example, if I wish I had an image of a color wheel in front of me. So there's a particular point in a color wheel where you can divide it in half, okay? And on one side of the color wheel is all warm colors. And on the other side of the color wheel is all cool colors. And all of your grays will live on that side. Let's think about it in a sense of the Munsell color system, okay? Let's go back to my canvas. Let's zoom out. So let's say that all of your very intense colors, the highest chroma, the purest colors right out of the tube, they're out here on the outside of the color wheel. Our highest chroma colors are these two right here. And you may have some higher ones that you've purchased. In order to take orange into the center, you turn it into a gray. So it's more of a gray orange. It has more blue in it. It's opposite, okay? Now, if I bisected this color wheel in half, it'd probably be somewhere around here that I would bisect it in half this way. Everything on this side would be warm, everything on this side would be cool. And everything that goes to the center gets less saturated and more closer to blues, whites, blacks, because that's where the white and black actually live, is in the center. When we make those color wheels, what we're going to do when we take a tint, it's going to take like an orange into the white. If we make a shade, it's going to take orange into black, and those are at the center. And if we make a tone, it's going to take orange into gray, right? So black, white, gray would always go in the center. And there's a tendency for them all to do the same, especially in oil paint. If I want to gray out any color, it would have more of a blue tinge to it. Or neutralize any color. Reduce the intensity. You have any art movies or documentaries suggested, or just good movies in general? Oh. Yeah, I do actually. Some really cool suggestions. Some ones you wouldn't even think of. some ones that you would probably like hate watching too. Yeah, let's give you those. Well, let me get started on this and I'll think about that. You know, now that I oiled out this palm frond and I'm looking at it now, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, maybe the teeth on it are a bit wonky there, the leaves. And I got these really dark colors here that are way too dark right there as well that I need to fix. But even when I look on the stream, you know, those values aren't too far off. What do you guys think? I'm gonna pour my tea, talk about movies while you guys think about that. But I need to get some painting done as well. I've talked so much about color. I'm so interested in it now after getting into it. Just watched the movie this weekend. You've probably seen it. And I consider it an artistic movie. Spider-Man Into the Multiverse. Tremendously beautiful art style in a very contemporary way. Another thing to watch, a beautiful animated movie, well, series, is Arcane on Netflix. That's a kind of digital movie where literally you could pause almost any frame of it and have a painting. It's just that beautiful. I'm gonna go ahead and make up my darkest dark right now. Please let me know what you think about that, the palm frond, the bottom palm frond. See if you think that its color value, actually its value, chroma, and hue is looking pretty good. I kind of think it is, but I like getting other opinions. The values do seem to match up. Like you said, the background behind the leaves do seem darker. Thank you. I appreciate that. A movie that influenced me to start my daily practice 10 years ago, and I can attribute greatly to where I am right now, is Jiro Dreams of Sushi. It's about a guy that makes sushi. It's about a master that makes sushi. You may think, oh, that's not really like an art movie. It definitely is, in my opinion, because it's very influential, very motivating. We have a creator that has mastered his craft and to a point beyond, you know, what anybody else has ever done. And it was very motivating. So Jiro Dreams of Sushi, Spider-Man Into the Multiverse, which the next one's coming out soon. I can't wait to see that one. Hopefully it's just as good. And then Arcane. I really like Arcane, the TV series on Netflix. If you want to go kind of off the wall, I think the frond is fine. The one next to the tiger toes seems to need more work. Oh yeah, I haven't even touched that one yet. Okay, good. So I'm glad that this one's fine. Then I can go back to this top one and really fix those teeth because they're supposed to be opaquely over that. But first, I'm going to jump into some of this background because I got some weird background stuff going on there. Need to figure out. I'll watch anything, to be honest. Yeah, Jiro Dreams of Sushi. You may hate it, but it was very motivating for me. You know, everybody has their taste, and which is totally cool. Off the wall movies. I like all of the Julian Schnabel movies. He's an artist. Been an artist since the 70s. Really big in the 80s. You know, this guy's got all kinds of money. Still sells a bunch of paintings. Still does some amazing contemporary art. Abstractions. It's just fantastic. He recently made a movie called At Eternity's Gate, all about Van Gogh. I really loved, my most favorite movie back in the day was Basquiat that he made. It didn't age very well, but you might like it. It's actually a really good movie. It's about Basquiat, Jean-Michel Basquiat, and Andy Warhol. Yeah, Jeffrey Wright plays Basquiat, and David Bowie plays Andy Warhol, and does a fantastic job at Andy Warhol. I love David Bowie. So sorry to hear of his passing a few years ago. So those are movies about artists. They're very artistic movies as well. So not artistic in the sense of drawing and painting and all that kind of stuff, but artistic in the way that it's shot within the movie itself, like artistic camera angles, artistic use of language and movement and things like this. It's an artistic way of telling a story, but yeah, I really like it. Got too dark on that one. Good morning, Finish, or good afternoon. Putting all these in my notes. Awesome. If anybody else can come up with some really cool movies, artistic movies, right? You're looking for anything inspiring, like, yeah, I would say anything inspiring would be kind of cool. Some of the older Japanese movies are fantastic. Some of the newer Japanese movies are fantastic. Seven Samurai, I forget who did that. I mean, that's one of those ultimate classics that filmmakers even today look at and marvel at still. Speaking of marveling, I would never... I mean, the Marvel movies are good for what they do. They're very entertaining. But they're not movies that I would get tremendously motivated about. They're kind of like the movies where, you know, I just want to kind of switch off and just be entertained for a couple hours. And that's it. And they do that really well. Need to lighten that up just a bit. Some of these darker areas back here just got a bit too dark. But I'm very glad I don't need to mess with that palm frond too much. Now, as I look at the stream, and I need to step back real quick. Yeah, so here's the interesting thing. When I'm looking at the stream, this shadow here really pops out. When I look at it on my screen over here, before you see it, you know, on my monitor, it's a really dark shadow, but in person, when I'm looking at it, that's not very dark at all. So I think I'm going to darken that up. That's one thing I'm going to do. I'm going to darken it up back here as well. Really push that back. Because I know I have this really cool shadow that goes over it that I like a lot, and a shadow back here to give it like more depth. Like this palm frond here is casting a shadow on top. Before I fell asleep last night, I was watching Mood Indigo, a French movie. Gotta finish it. Oh, that sounds interesting. I love a lot of foreign movies, honestly. Ooh. Especially a lot of movies from China. Chinese movies are fantastic. Not remakes of them. I don't... The Americanized remakes of a lot of the Chinese movies, they missed the point on a lot of it. But the reason why I like those movies is the culture is so different. And the movies are so different from, you know, what we know here in America that I'm constantly surprised. I'm always thinking, oh, the plot is going to go this way. And it never does. It goes in some strange way that I would never think of. Very surprising. Like, there's a movie that came out just recently with Tom Hanks. It was a man called something or another. But originally that movie was made from a book called A Man Called Uwe, O-V-E. It was a movie from the Netherlands, I believe. I'm probably wrong on that. And it was so good. Or a book, I didn't read the book, watched the movie from the Netherlands. It was, you know, really wonderful drama. I hope that, I haven't seen the Tom Hanks version of it, but I hope it's just as good. But I fear the translation. But Tom Hanks is doing it, and I love Tom Hanks. He's awesome. Yeah, I think that's better, honestly. It looks a bit dark in the stream, but in person, it's just right. Where it was before, where you guys saw before, is now what it is in real life. Max von Sydow, The Seventh Seal, is a classic. Ooh, that sounds fantastic. The name alone is like, I need to watch that. I'm actually going to darken up back in here as well. And then I need to get out some opaque dark paint to get those palm fronds fixed up. The leaves of the top palm frond. I'm going to fade this out really nicely first. Need a little bit bigger brush to do that. Yeah, nice. Okay. Well, this is going a lot faster that I didn't need to redo this palm frond from the ground up. Let's get these leaves put in. And I'm going to make up some opaque paint. So I'm not going to mix any medium with this. And my blue is just so thick now. It's ridiculous. Burnt umber. This is really thick paint. I'm going to need just a touch of medium anyways. Actually, I should have at least some medium in it. At this point in the painting, I have to add medium, a little bit of medium to everything. This could be way too dark, but that's okay. Oh, Swedish, yes. The movie's really good. I love the movie. I cried at the movie. It's really good. That's how you know when the movies are good, when they really move you emotionally. I love dramas when they do that. Like, well, you know what? 2 Spider-Man movies have moved me emotionally, which is fantastic. What is the latest Spider-Man movie with not Tobey Maguire? What's his name? Tom Holland was really good. So I take that back. That was one Marvel movie that I'm like, okay, yeah, that was really good. Because it had some emotional stuff to it with, you know, really attaching you to the characters. And yeah, just a really good plot. Really enjoyed that movie. Into the Multiverse. Not only was it great artistically, I think it was beautiful artistically. But it had some wonderful character development in it. When you care about the characters, that's where it becomes really important, really wonderful. The movies that are just bad are the movies where, like, at any point in time, anyone could die in that movie, and you're like, meh, whatever. I have a week out of school starting today, so a lot of time on my hands. Well, let's fill the beginning of your day with art time, and then the rest of the day, add it with fun stuff. You know, well, art could be fun. Let's see if we can get some of that art done first. And then the rest of the day, you're like, I feel even better. I got my art done. I can relax and do whatever the heck I want. Well, that's right. You have assignments for school as well, so. You thought you were out, but they pull you back in. What's that Al Pacino quote in Godfather? We're talking about movies, so I'm going to come out with movie quotes, right? Is that too dark? That might be a bit too dark. I want to lighten it up with a bit of yellow and a bit of white. It's a very bright green, and I want to neutralize the green, which is a secondary. How do we neutralize a secondary? With a primary, and the primary of green, or the complementary to green on the color wheel is red. Neutralizes it perfectly. I'm not a big fan of movies. I prefer the lengthier format of TV shows. Oh yeah, the binge. The whole binge thing, which, you know, was never a thing until Netflix, and then the only reason why I love TV shows. TV shows are fantastic. You know, you can really get deep into it, a huge storyline, story arc, as long as it doesn't get too campy. But they can take up way too much of my time. I like 2 hours and done. Got the whole story. Get back to art time. I like them because they're more efficient with my time. But you would love Arcane then, Finish. Arcane on Netflix. Great story. Fantastic story. Beautiful art. There's a couple channels out there. Or there's one channel, and the guy's not doing much anymore, but it's called a YouTube channel. It's called oh jeez. It's something like every scene a painting. Basically he's talking about movies. And he's looking at stills of movies. And really critiquing the composition. So it's perfect for artists looking at movies and looking at the composition of each of these scenes. It's a wonderful channel. Actually, Chris Legaspi, his channel as well, he did a series where he was looking at movies, and he did call it the same thing, every scene a painting, and that was really good. So check those out. I date it so far, but hopefully it will come together, and I trust the progress. What are you talking about? Oh, yeah, I brought my sculpture home to work on. Oh, wonderful. Fantastic. I can never commit enough time to a show, so I prefer movies. I never finish a show and get overwhelmed by the number of episodes. Yeah, so we're in the same boat there, Ashton. This is a dumb question, but I'll ask it anyway. There's no dumb questions, ever. I'm the king of dumb questions, especially at my job. If there were dumb questions. How do you use your paper towels? I know you fold them before you start, but do you put your brush in the fold and squeeze out the color? Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I mean, there's a lot of these aspects of painting, these little small things that I do that I figured out over time that work for me in some way that make my time more efficient. So it's not a dumb question at all. Let me get the tip of this palm frond in real quick, because I want to get this one in and I want it to look good. This is one of the main ones because it's right in the light area. And then I'll show you about the paper towel. Now I have a brush without any paint in it, and if I want to kind of carve some of that color away. Yeah, I like how that tip just kind of flips to the side a bit. I need to add some browns up there as well, like a bit part of that dead color. So the way I can't wait till this new camera comes in so I don't have to keep turning that one on and off. All right, let's move to the full palette view. As soon as the camera comes back on. There it is. All right, so the way I fold my paper towels is just I quarter them, fold, and fold. Why do I do this? Because it fits well on these little, I wonder if I can even show that. So my palette has kind of a holder on it with these little wings that fly out, and this size fits perfectly on the side of the palette down there. Are these little wings that kind of fold out. Maybe I could, yeah, it's not really that important to show, honestly. It just fits to the side at that. But it also, I don't like, most paper towels, if you pull them out like this and you just kind of grab them in a crumple, what happens is, yeah, we're getting deep into paper towel usage here because it's a good question. What happens is, let's say that you put your brush in this crumple and then you clean it off. Where is that color gone? It's gone like all over the place. It's hit like 5 or 6 different places on this paper towel. The next time you grab your paper towel, the likelihood of you getting paint all over your hands is really high. And then finding a place to actually put the brush so you can clean it off is very low because paint's all over the place. But if you're organized with it, there's 2 things you do here. I only use kind of like a double fold, so I'll only put paint out on this side and then fold it in because these paper towels are so thin you can almost see my finger through it. And if I put paint just on one side of the whole paper towel, it would go through the paper towel and onto my hand. I don't like getting paint on my hands. I don't like getting my hands dirty with any of this stuff because you'll touch your phone, you'll touch your teacup, you'll touch your face, and all of a sudden you got paint everywhere. So you want to make sure it's folded over so that the paint doesn't go through, just one layer. Now, within that, like here I am using this to kind of clean out my brushes. So if I want to pull out all the paint on this brush, I would put it like in this little section and I would squeeze. So I'm kind of like squeezing this, and then I would just pull towards me. Of course, some of the finials of the brush kind of come apart. So this one here just comes right off, but I just pop it right back in there. Works just fine. I just need to clamp it with a wrench. I can get my wrench out and actually clamp that down so it doesn't happen, but I haven't done that. And you end up with these little bits of cleaned out color. What's nice about it is if you really want to clean the color out, you could do that several times, just really quickly in all of these clean spots on the paper towel, and you're getting more and more color out every time you do that. And as soon as I fill up this whole side, I can fold it over, and all that paint is, I could touch this all day long and not get it all on my fingers, okay? And then eventually I'll use this side and fold it into this format, and then at that point it gets thrown away. Waste not, want not kind of thing, right? But I've already folded that over, so it's all over the place, so I'm going to keep it like that. You would think I couldn't go that long on talking about paper towel usage, but you would be wrong. Finnish loves Arcane. Yes, it's so good. It's possibly the best animated show I've ever watched. Well, have you seen... and it is really good. I think it's still better than Spider-Man Into the Multiverse. But I would rank Spider-Man Into the Multiverse up there as well. And that came out before Arcane. Maybe the artist from Arcane watched Spider-Man Into the Multiverse and got really influenced as well. I wouldn't doubt it. Okay, I need a lot more paint there. I'm trying to think of any other movies that just have beautiful artistic style. Animated movies that have an artistic style to them that is just fantastic. I can't think of any right now. So influential, though. I know it kind of seems like it's way off topic, but honestly, anything like that's very artistic, even a movie that is just, action oriented in some way, has a deep seat in artistry and composition. There are places online, and you'd have to look them up. Some of them you have to actually pay for. I think one's called Film Grab or something similar. But they just collect stills from movies and talk about learning composition and just, learning from the movies to get just beautifully composed scenes. It's a great place for learning, different compositions, ways to tell story. I mean, if you want to look at some of the best storytellers on the planet, ones that keep the audience involved from beginning to end, you look at Hollywood. And of course, they have 24 images per second that they can use, or 30 or 60 or whatever they're using now. But there's a lot of stills within that you can pull out because they compose those movies tremendously. I mean, look at every movie by Wes Anderson and how he composes things. It's completely different than anything else you'll see. Just absolutely fantastic. We can really learn from that. It's like what Duchamp was doing. I think Ashton and Finnish and everybody here at some point in their art history journey has learned about Duchamp and has probably said, oh my gosh, what a racket that guy has put on. He's the guy that said, you know, everything is art, and put a urinal in an art show. Funny story about that. One of his art pieces was a snow shovel. And, you know, not sure if it's a true story, but anyway, had a show coming up with the snow shovel. Couldn't find the snow shovel. The original snow shovel that he used. And it wasn't too long after the original show. So it was back in the day when they had the same snow shovels, right? They figured like someone used it. Someone was like, oh, here's a snow shovel. I'm going to go shovel snow with it. And so what they did is they just went to the local store and bought a snow shovel and then put that on display. Seriously. What's wonderful about that is that, you know, it's an interesting statement on what, you know, interesting challenge on what art is and what art isn't. I really like the idea because there's a design that goes into everything. You know, every car out there is a work of art. A team of designers working on those cars, making them, you know, look a certain way, have a certain beauty to them. Just because they make 10 billion of them doesn't mean that there isn't any kind of artistry that goes into it. I mean, just go to your local hardware store or store where you buy appliances and things and look at all the 20 or 30 different sinks that you can buy or toilets that you can buy that have different shapes and things like this. There's lots of design that goes into that. Who are we to say that they're not artists in some way, right? Oh, you know what? I'm only showing my palette. Holy cow. Sorry about that. Sitting there painting this whole time, talking, and not showing what I was doing. Okay. Wow, that went quick. I talked about a lot of stuff. Did a lot of more talking than I did painting, honestly. But I'm happy with that palm frond and the palm frond above it. I'm almost certain that tomorrow we can move on. We can move down to this background down here. And then the palm frond down below. Let me zoom out. Yeah, so this background, I really need to just oil that out to see what it looks like. And then probably get deep into this palm frond here. That's going to take some time, but the one thing that I'm definitely going to do with that is bring the value down a lot. It's a very cool color compared to everything up here still. Then we'll work on the rock, do the fourth leg on the tiger. On that side, then we're 95% done with this painting. I'll go back to the tiger itself and fix up a couple things and then be really done. You see, I haven't heard of the guy before. Oh, Duchamp. Yeah, check him out. It's a lot of fun. Very contemporary. Okay, guys. Thanks for joining me today on this Monday. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Actually, I'm going to show myself. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm going to be working on color stuff and trying to get a video out for that very soon. I got some other videos that I've already recorded. I'm going to be editing and getting those out too. So I'll be talking about a lot of color things within the next few live streams, definitely. So please ask any questions you have about that or anything. And I'll answer them either in a video or directly here on the stream, or both, most likely. But anyway, Have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys tomorrow.